Hey, we are live on Bowls TV. It's BOLES.TV, BOLES.television, and we are coming to you live from the East Coast, where we've had very strange and beguiling weather for the past 4 or 5 days. A lot of clouds, some rain, a little cold, but no snow. Very weird weather for this time of year. Well, there have been so many changes just since Friday on this strange evisceration that is known as Elon Musk. Very weird stuff's going on. And we're going to dig into some of it today. But first, just a couple of notes. As you can see, my dermatological scars from the burning of last Wednesday are sort of healing. This one's sort of done, but I shaved today, so it kind of shaved off. This is sticking around. Now, if I were to go see him tomorrow, my skin doctor would pull that off with an alcohol-soaked cotton swab. Very painful. I'm not doing that. I was always raised and taught, let the scab fall off on its own or you're going to have a big scar. And I do have 2 big scars right here. Bing, bang, for when they're both rubbed off of my face. Now, I also want to warn you that right before we went on the live stream, we received a notification from our building management saying that PSE&G, the electric company, is going to be around and replacing all of the, electrical meters in the apartments. And it'll take 2 to 3 minutes. Yes, we're going to turn your power off for 2 to 3 minutes as we replace your meter box. Now, the meters are not in individual apartments. I believe they're in one big gang somewhere in the basement. And since there are around 700 apartments here, I just did a quick calculation, and if it's one guy doing every box for 2 to 3 minutes, it would take, 8 hours a day for 8 days a week to replace them all. So I'm hoping that they can replace more than one at a time, or that they have a huge gang of people where they're going to replace, 20 at a time. But forewarned is forbearing. So if this stream is indelicately taken off the air because we lose power, you'll know exactly what happened. I didn't have anything to do with it. It's PSE&G to the rescue. Now, as you know, I have a Mastodon instance. It's not a server, although some people try to call it a server. It's a Mastodon instance, which is now found at bowls.xyz. And this morning I learned about a new microblogging site called micro.blog. Okay, now that's sort of interesting because it sets itself up as a competitor to WordPress. And you can use your own domain. I've set it up for boles.co, bowls.co, bowls.company. And I'll show it to you. Now, I've only posted a couple of things so far, but it's rather quick, sort of speedy, has a nice sort of regular interface, and it sets itself up as a competitor to WordPress. Now, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I have to come up with, like $300 within 5 days to pay for our WordPress.com hosting, which we've had since the beginning of WordPress, which I think is 100 years ago. And this microblog website is free, Or if you want to use your own domain, then they're going to charge you $5 a month. If you want a little bit more, you want a podcast, you want more video, that's $10 a month. And if you really want to splurge and have like more than one author, I think you can have up to 5 on a blog, then that's $15 a month. And if you want more than 5, that's $20 a month. So 20 times 12 is what? $240. So I have a lot of authors and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears going into my bowlesblogs.com account. So if I were to move over to this new micro instance of blogging, I would use a lot of perhaps functionality, and I'd have to be at the $20 a month level to get more than 5 authors. Even though right now I'm the only one writing it, I have authors from the past, 10, 15, 30, 35 people who have been published. And you have to set up accounts for them and get their work online and associate their account with them. It's a big headache. So I don't know if micro.blog is going to be a replacement for WordPress.com, but it's an interesting alternative to have in your back pocket because it is federated. It is sort of part of the pixel-fed Mastodon universe. It's not owned by one person or one entity, I believe. And you can use it as you wish. And it's nice sometimes to have a backup that isn't, Blogger. Because other than WordPress, what is out there to use for a blogging platform? I guess some people would say Substack, Medium. Some people use Twitter, Facebook for blogging. But micro.blog is an interesting place to go look. I changed the name of this right before we went on the air. Let me see if the name updates. Interesting, yo. No, did not change. Okay, so that's okay. So these are the 2 little test pieces that I put up. But for $5 a month to have your own custom domain on a rather fast and sort of plain-ish website, not a bad deal. Not a bad deal at all. And if you're looking to get away from Twitter and, Mastodon is a little too complicated to use, well, micro.blog is a possibility. Now, here's another thing that I discovered over the weekend. Fascinating. It says Geek Squad, right? But it's not Geek Squad, but they're pretending to be Geek Squad. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. And you notice they sent it on Friday the 13th, which is also an important day for something else we're going to discuss in just a moment. So this came in my email. I don't have anything to do with Geek Squad, but you know what it is. It's, I guess, Best Buy, and they give you a customer number, an invoice number, a 1-year subscription. And the note is, hey, your subscription with Geek Squad is going to renew at $419, and it's going to be taken from your checking account today. If this isn't right, call us at this number. And this is the best part. Please do not reply to this email. The email box is not monitored, and you will not receive a response. And no sales tax? I don't think so. So they terrify you, thinking you're going to lose $400 out of your checking account. And you can't do anything to stop it because it's a scam. So if you're foolish enough or wild enough to call the phone number, which I did not do because I know this is a scam, because I don't have anything to do with Geek Squad, you would call that number. They would get your name, your account information. Oh, and what account is it coming from? Oh, I think it's my checking account. Here's my checking account. Here's my authorization. Here's my password. Yes, log into my account and, delete the Geek Squad. So, a bolo for you. Be on the lookout for these very sort of sophisticated looking invoices that are just fake. And there's one that isn't really a scam, but is sort of a scam. If you have any sort of domain name, you will probably get a bill in the mail saying, hey, you have this domain name, and if you want to be in our registry, you need to pay us $20 per domain. Then you look closely at it, and it says, this is not a bill. This is not an invoice. This is an advertising opportunity for you. But how many people get to, 3 pages of onion skin boilerplate contract language to try to figure out if it's legitimate? And I guarantee you 9 out of 10 people would get that letter in the mail and pay the $20 thinking it's part of their registration fee when it is not. Be careful out there. There are not kind people in the world. Now, speaking of the unkind, let's talk a little bit about Elon Musk and the disaster that has become Twitter. And I understand if you're still on Twitter, you don't want to leave, you like it, it's important to you, it makes you feel good. I had 46,000 followers, 47,000 followers, and I think it's down to 45 now because people either left or been blocked by the madman. But you have to remember 2 things. Elon Musk paid $44 billion. Twitter, not worth half that. Why? Why is he letting all right-wing extremists back on the system? And Jack Dorsey, who used to run and operate and own Twitter, is a complete and total believer in Elon Musk, still to this day. Why? There is something strange going on in Mudville. And I think Putin is a part of it, which I'll get to in a moment. But the most dismaying thing is what I've been worried about for a couple of weeks is these APIs. An API is like a secret key that is a form of numbers and letters probably that you can use to get authorization to get a feed of information from Twitter and other online experiences. APIs are used a lot in software development. And to access Twitter, if you're a developer of a Twitter app like Tweetbot, Twitterrific, others, you need to have an API from Twitter that allows you to access their system on your system and on your user's system. And a lot of people spend a lot of money to buy these apps to access Twitter because the basic Twitter app is terrible. And they don't like the web interface. So they use these third-party solutions. Well, it appears Elon Musk has decided, I guess after 2 months of ownership, that he doesn't want any third-party developers accessing the Twitter API. Because, I guess, he thinks that they're stealing his content to put on their app so they can charge users of their app to access Twitter content. Okay, that sort of makes sense. But if you're going to do that, if you're going to cut people off from their livelihood and cut off a lot of your power users who do not like the native Twitter app, you're going to cause a lot of drama and unsophistication by telling people to pretty much F off and go away. So on Friday it happened. The F off and go away happened. Elon Musk, although he has not confirmed it or said anything, cut off the API access to several of the top Twitter app services. Tweetbot, Twitterrific, 2 of the big ones, cut off. And it was a drama that played out all weekend. And it happened on Friday the 13th. So was it on purpose or not? Now, none of these app developers were notified beforehand. Hey, we're going to cut you off. You know, you're slurping on our fire hose and we're cutting you off because we're not getting a cut. And I guess the reasoning is, well, if you cut off all these people who are using Tweetbot Twitterrific and force them to use the authenticated original Twitter app, then you're going to have more people using your app that you can, I guess, sell subscriptions to and sell access to. It doesn't really work that way, which shows you why Elon Musk really has no idea what he's doing as the owner-operator of. So imagine that you're a developer. You get all these reports from people saying, hey, my software doesn't work anymore. What happened? And you don't know. No one's told you what's going on. So you try to look at it. Is the API mixed up? You try to contact people on Twitter, but they've been fired, so you don't have any contacts anymore. So you're just sitting there in the dark trying to figure out what in the world happened. So I'll show you some feedback that happened over the weekend. And this is very graphic, but so incredibly delightful. Hey, it's Miss Artist Dora, live from the iPad. Fantastic. Well, we're talking about Twitter and what's going on and all these terrible things that have happened to the app developers over the weekend, which just confirms for me that Twitter is done. It's dead. It's now already the new MySpace. And the Putin influence, we're going to get to that in a minute. So Craig Hockenberry is one of the Twitter app developers who was cut off over the weekend, unceremoniously. And this is his blog post, and it's filthily written. I guess this is the clean version. And I'm not going to say a lot of these words, but it's so deliciously authentic, and he's so really angry that we have to share. The S show. Well, it happened. I knew it was coming. A prick pulled the plug. And what bothers me most is about how Space Karen did it. That's their name for Elon Musk. People also call him Elmo, but Space Karen seems to be the one that fits. And then he talks about his mother passing away and how Twitterrific, his app, is also sort of passing away. The API, like his mother, has been declining for a while. It's really well associated and well done. I will put the link to this in our Discord server, in our links for the show afterwards. And he goes on to say, what bothers me most about Twitterrific's final day is that it was not dignified. There was no advance notice for creators. Customers just got a weird error, and no one is explaining what's going on. We had no chance to thank customers who had been with us for over a decade. Instead, it's just another scene in the ongoing S show. But I guess that's what you should expect from an S-type person. Personally, I'm done, and done with a vengeance. That's a theme that's going to replay itself several times over the weekend. These app developers are furious. They've been cut off from their source of income that's never been a problem until Elon Musk took over. And now they have no money. All of their people want their money back, and they're angry. First of all, arrogant bastards love seeing their names on tweets and other media. I want to starve him, Space Karen, Elon Musk, Elmo, of the things that money can't buy. Respect and attention. Do the same by simply ignoring him and his kingdom. Second, for the past several months, I've been thinking about where to go from here. When you see decline, you plan for a demise. It was the last thing my mother taught me. And he goes on to say, I've been active on Mastodon since the billionaire bozo took over, and it makes me think. One thing I've noticed is that everyone is going to great lengths to make something that replaces the clients we've known for years. That's an excellent goal that eases a transition in the short term, but ignores a new open standard. So he wants to go on and see all these different federated places, and he wants to build an app, a new app that will combine PixelFed and Microblog that we talked about at the start of the show, and Mastodon, and put them all in one place so you can reply to all of your friends because it's all federated, which is really a lovely idea, and I wish him the best luck. And I understand his fury. I've been furious as well. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Paul Haddad is the creator, founder, genius behind Tapbot's Tweetbot, the biggest, most successful third-party app to access Twitter. And Paul was on Mastodon very early on Friday saying, we've been cut off. I don't know what's going on. Let's try to figure it out. And all weekend, he was posting updates about what Elon Musk had done to him, but will not admit. Here he's posting Craig Hockenberry. At this point, I'm not doing a last tweet, Paul says. When it happens, it'll be a simple account deletion, no notes. The only winning move is not to play with him. And then he goes on to say, I've often pondered what I might say as my last tweet for a long time. I thought it would be so long, and thanks for all the tweets. More recently, it's going to be like, don't cry for me, Argent Twitter. And he's working on a Mastodon client, which sounds really terrific, called Ivory. It's currently in beta testing. You can't get in. Every couple of days, he lets in another 1,000 people to help him alpha test Ivory, because he's now on the fast track because he's desperate and needs to get it out so he can continue his monetary flow and serve a whole new sequence of users. So he announces, hey, 1,000 more slots open, and by the time you click on the link, they're all gone. So I can't get into the Ivory beta. But it's okay, because it's supposed to be out in some sort of form by the end of the month. Paul has said it's not going to be perfect. We're on critical mission. Vengeance is another term he used to get this out. So it's not going to be feature full. It's going to be about a quarter of what it will be eventually. And all of his fans and friends and people who use the software said, Paul, it doesn't matter if it works or not. Just get it out there so we can use it and subscribe and give you money. And I feel exactly the same way. And when I was really into Twitter, I had both. I had Twitterrific and Tweetbot, both very different experiences. I think I liked Tweetbot just a little bit better. So I'm very excited to see what happens with Ivory. So what Paul did over the weekend is he said, okay, they've cut off our API access, but they haven't told us anything. And Paul had contacted Twitter, and Twitter wouldn't tell him anything. So he did a very clever thing on Sunday. He said, well, I have this other API. I guess you can have more than one. And I'll swap it out for the current API and see what happens. And he swapped it out, and Twitter came back. Because not all third-party apps are cut off from Twitter, only the most popular. Because there are like 10, 15 that access, and Elon doesn't care. But the big boys were targeted. Or so it seemed, and then later on it was proven as a fact. So for about half a day on Sunday, tweets were loading. They said, you've reached the API max, and people were complaining, oh, it's working. And then a few hours later, that API was completely cut off again. And that's what set Paul over the top, under the bridge, over the bottom, where he said, well, now we know that we're being targeted by Elon Musk because the first API we've been using for years was cut off. I tried a backup API that it was more limited, but it worked for a while, and now suddenly it's just as dead as our first API. This is intentional. This is done without notice or notification. So I'm done with him, which is a very, very, very bad thing. This is a little hard to see. This is a very bad thing for Twitter as a whole because you're losing really important people who love the service. There we go. So now we get into a little more interesting part of this. Where, as you remember from a couple of weeks ago, our friend Alexander found me on Discord and said, Twitter cut off my account. I'm done on Twitter. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, I tried to log in and wouldn't let me log in. I'm gone. It's erased my entire account. Now, Alexander lives in Ukraine. He fights the good war for the good people of Ukraine. He said, Putin is a big controller, it appears, of Elon Musk and Twitter. And the edict went out, I guess, to cut off all Ukrainians. And he said, I relied on that to, promote and try to sell my NFTs to support my family and to support the war effort. And I've been cut off. And I tried to set up a new account 2 different ways, and those were cut off as well. He said, I'm done with Twitter. I don't want to talk about it. So that's the Ukrainian side that was cut off 2 weeks ago. Now, this is where it gets even more interesting. My good friend Igba, who is Russian, who does not like Putin, who does not support the war, who left to go live in a different country, told me over the weekend that his Twitter account was cut off as well. And he wanted, because I haven't closed my account, I've made my account private, but I'm not going on there anymore. But if I deactivate my account, then my username can be taken by somebody else, and then impersonation happens. It's a big mess. So for Facebook, Instagram, you deactivate, which saves everything, but everything is dead. On Twitter, you privatize, make private your account, so only the people who are following you can see what you put up there, even though you're not putting anything up anymore, and new people can't follow you. So Igbo was contacting me saying, hey, your account's private. I lost my original account. Here's my new account. Let's connect. And I said, I'm not on Twitter anymore. I said, and why are you? I mean, you're Russian, and Putin is in charge of Twitter decision-making, it seems. What are you doing? He said, well, just like our friend Alexander, I use Twitter to sell my NFTs. It's my only source of income. And he is very active, Igba, very, very active on Twitter. I mean, 50 messages a day, shilling his work, supporting other people. It's really magnificent in many ways. And he said, my account was canceled. I could not get back